All right, so this next question is for the audience. Okay, now you guys listen good so we can finally put this question to rest. Do black Jews exist? Yes or no?
Uh,
I would say people of my color. Are there people of my color who are Jews?
certainly they exist. I mean, the question is, there's a variety of different people who might be called a black Jew. They might identify themselves and say, I am a black Jew. There are other people who you might look at, you go, and they don't say it themselves, but you might look at them and go, oh, that's a black Jew, right? So there are a variety of people like that. But again, if we just talk about the conventional mainstream of rabbinic Judaism, right? There are certainly people who we would identify racially or ethnically as black, who happen to also be members of the Jewish community, right? So I don't know. I've mentioned the Ethiopians. That's sort of an easy example. Is there a reason to think that Ethiopians are not black?
Are you asking me that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know exactly how you're using the word black, but Ethiopian Jews, I would say, would be identified normally as black Jews, but maybe not. But there are certainly black Jews in the United States. Now, I don't know that nowadays there's more of a term like Jews of color. You know the expression people of color, right? So there's an expression now, Jews of color, right? So that expression, Jews of color, tends to refer to people who are black or maybe indigenous people who are, or maybe Latino people who are within rabbinic Judaism, okay? And they may be there by birth, they may be there by conversion, just like all the other people that I talked about who may be in the community by virtue of birth or by conversion.
Right, because like for instance, I've done some readings and I've done some background research about the Limba people, for instance, who are in Africa, and I think some of these people are in South Africa, and those are the ones that I was actually looking into, or I kind of did a little bit of a study on.
Okay,
they say that. Go ahead.
You know, in Jewish circles, it's not, at least in my Jewish circles, it's not unusual to interrupt. Now, it is true in German Jewish circles, people do not interrupt as much. So I hope you don't mind me interrupting you. But that African group, Lembe, is that how I'm pronouncing it?
Limba, Lemba.
Limba. So that yes, group, that I think there's more dispute over their identity and whether they are accepted as rabbinic Jews. I think there's more dispute over that. But what I'm talking about is you go to an Orthodox synagogue, you go to a Hasidic synagogue, you go to a Reform synagogue. The synagogue I went to in Chicago, that I happened to attend in Chicago, there were African Americans who were full members of that synagogue, so you could call them black Jews. And I never asked them, do you call yourself a black Jew? But presumably they would feel comfortable with that phrase.
All right, so yeah, so you basically answered my question. So yes, for everybody who missed, I'm sorry, go ahead.
What was her name? Karen Lewis? She passed away, right? Yeah. Karen Lewis passed away a few years ago. She was, I think she was the head of the Chicago Teachers Union at one point. She was a labor union, she was a teacher in the public schools in Chicago, and she was a labor union leader and organizer. And she also happened to be Jewish, and she would go to the same synagogue occasionally that I would go to occasionally. And she was very respected there, and so on. So, again, I never asked Karen, are you a black Jew? But she was clearly African American and clearly Jewish.